This is 1320 WILS. Another big story now, another police shooting in Baltimore. This time, though, this woman who was shot was basically pointing a shotgun at police officers while she was on her Facebook account, on Instagram, and she was basically being encouraged to resist the arrest leading to the shooting. We're joined by Bobby Kimbrough, Jr., a law enforcement expert, over 30 years in law enforcement. His new book is Surviving the Stop. Bobby, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Now, first of all, your reaction to what's happening now with these live streamings that are happening. People are on their phone, broadcasting while they're face-to-face with these police encounters. What do you think of that?
I think two things. I think it's a distraction, just like what happened in Maryland. It's a distraction. At the same time, you have people encouraging you to do things that you probably wouldn't normally do without a little encouragement. I think it's a razor blade. It cuts coming and going. At the same time, it provides transparency. But at the same time, I think it hurts a little bit because all of us interpret things differently. When
you look at the type of attitudes that we're beginning to see now, and even the Black Lives Matter movement that is painting this picture about police, well, first of all, what do you think about what they're doing to the dynamics of dealing with police officers?
I think we're in this area or this age of non-compliance. As it relates to Black Lives Matter, I understand what the message they're trying to display. I get it. I understand it. As an African-American, I truly understand. As a father of African-American boys, my father is black. But then there's another part of me, because my mother is biracial, that I have to be understanding that all of us matter. And I can't try to make you think my lives matter until we understand that we matter.
Do you think groups like do you think Black Lives Matter encourages young black people to basically fight back and not comply with police officers?
I don't think that they're encouraging them not to comply with police officers. I don't think that Black Lives Matter are anti-police. I think that what you're seeing is anti-abuse of the police. And what I like to say is this: that the police or law enforcement is just a system of enforcing the law. You have individuals that work in that system that sometimes act out of the scope of what they should do. And when we find those incidents, we should remove them people and prosecute them.
Okay, but we've got this case, for example. She's at home. The police are outside telling her, you need to come out. She's got her son in her hand with a shotgun in the other. In your view, what is that? I mean, why is she not doing what she's being told at that point?
Now, I can't tell you why she's not doing it, but what I can tell you is that when you go in non-compliance with law enforcement, there's going to be a problem. There's only two outcomes. When you're in non-compliance with law enforcement, that's either be by choice or force. You're going to be given the choice to comply, and if not, there's going to be some type of action. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no way around it, because if you don't respond to that, we'll have a lawless society.
Should people be shocked when there's a shooting once the compliance is not there?
Well, I would evaluate each case on case by case. I wouldn't lump all of them together. But what I will say is that if the police, law enforcement asks you to do something, especially in this case, comply. There's always tomorrow to work this out in a courtroom, have discussion. Yeah. This non-compliance, this area that we're moving into of violence is just, we've got to stop and reevaluate where we're going.
So, and I should know, too, because she's broadcasting. She's talking to her son, I think, 5-year-old boy. Again, she's got a shotgun, and she tells him she's heard asking him what the police are trying to do, and he answers, quote, "They're trying to kill us." What do you think when you hear that coming out of the mouth of a 5-year-old boy?
I think, once again, what you're seeing is that this culture that we're painting, that the police are vicious and they're mean people, it carries over even into our young adults, even into our children. That's why we've got to change this atmosphere that we're in.
Yeah, are people being called out in the black community for doing that, for painting this picture of police officers?
I think in the communities and the black communities that I go into, as I said earlier, we are for the police because we recognize that the police, you can't exist in a society without police, law enforcement. All I think what a lot of in the certain black communities, the incidents where they're highlighted, which appears that there was some type of brutality or the police or the individual acted out of their scope, those incidents are broadcast and highlighted to where people start to paint the whole organization of law enforcement in a negative light, and you can't do that. They're bad in every profession aspect that we have in our culture.
Yeah, I mean, to have your child, 5-year-old child, say they're trying to kill us, he didn't come up with that on his own, right?
Exactly.
Now the incidents like these, I guess, are we just time to just get used to them? Are we going to see more and more of this in your view? Or?
Well, you know what? My prayer and my hope is that we start to see less of these. But
and what would cause that to happen? I mean, we see Black Lives Matter coming out with more and more demonstrations. Why would we see less of these, would you think?
Well, I'll tell you what we're going to have to take in order to see what we have to do to see less of these. I think we're going to have to approach this from not black lives, white lives, poor lives, rich lives. We're going to have to approach this from all of us. We the people got to change this for the people, because if not, you're going to see this dividing line between blacks and white, law enforcement, non-law enforcement, become wider. You're going to see communities, poor, rich, start to separate. Okay. And that's what makes us great, is the inclusion of everybody.
Okay, but so those that say Black Lives Matter, the entire movement is exacerbating this problem, making things worse. Do you agree with that?
Well, you know what? I've seen in some incidents where some of the gatherings I've seen on television and in my community where they're protesting peacefully and they're not over the top with some of it, just saying, hey, in law enforcement, when you come across us, we matter as well as the next person. I get it. I understand what they're trying to say. But I think my personal opinion is to get it across, we got to change some things. There's another way to approach this problem.
Okay.
Dialogue. Let's sit down at the same table. Let's get everybody involved.
Okay. I'm just trying to hone in on it. Are you a supporter of Black Lives Matter or not, would you say?
I support all lives. I mean, like I said, my mother is biracial.
Right.
My daughter.
Yeah, but black lives, they don't like that phrase. They say all lives isn't the right way to go. We're trying to make a point here. Is that appropriate to do?
I don't think it's appropriate anytime you segregate yourself from the rest of the world. I don't think it's appropriate anytime you separate, anytime you discriminate. I don't think that's appropriate anywhere. That's how we get to these situations that we find ourselves in. That's when the line starts to grow. That's when people start to say, well, I'm better, my life matters more. When the truth of the matter, it doesn't. We all in this together. It's as the Nissan, it's a human race. It's all of us.
Bobby Kimbrough Jr., the book, his brand new book, Surviving the Stop. Bobby, thanks again for giving us some insight on this complicated issue.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you, sir.